Well, and nobody cares has been part of the attitude that has been projected toward the Steelers, while various players have complained about the delays in their Week 12 game from Thursday all the way until Wednesday. Eric Ebron, who was challenged when it comes to securing the football on Wednesday night, and that's putting it mildly. He was on the 17 Weeks podcast. That's a product of Uninterrupted, available on SiriusXM and Pandora. Here is Ebron talking about what ultimately becomes between Wednesday night against the Ravens, Monday night against Washington, and the following Sunday night against the Bills, playing 3 games in a 12-day stretch. Here's Ebron on that.
We put all of these stipulations in place. Everybody signed up and said, okay, this is going to be cool. Nobody thought you would play 3 games in 12 days. I don't care about a game check. I'm sorry. I know there's people that don't make that amount of money I do. I know that. So what? I'm sure they don't want to play 3 games in 12 days either. They'd much rather, lose a game check than risk them not making a check the next year because they're hurt. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of stipulations, bro, but this is sad. This is really sad.
Okay, when I first saw those quotes, this is jarring. And he said, he doesn't care if he loses a game check. He knows he makes a lot more money than the average person, but they wouldn't want to play 3 games in 12 days either. And that became his mantra. I don't want to play 3 games in 12 days. I don't want to play 3 games in 12 days. I don't want to play 3 games in 12 days. And then, and I wish that the lightning bolt would have struck for me without seeing someone else point it out. Pretty much every team plays 3 games in 12 days every single year. And the team that drafted Eric Ebron, the Detroit Lions, every year plays a Sunday, Thursday. That's a 12-game stretch. And actually, when you start crunching the hours from kickoff to kickoff, assuming a 1 p.m. Eastern start on that first game and the traditional 12:30 p.m. Eastern start on Thanksgiving, and we've done the math and checked it twice, it's 263 and a half hours from kickoff to kickoff. The Steelers are going to have 268 and a half hours from kickoff to kickoff from Wednesday late afternoon Ravens to Sunday night Buffalo Bills to cap it off. So look, this is just guy is upset and wants to complain about anything, even if it's factually inaccurate. He's just upset. So let me complain about the sun coming up in the east. Whoever would have wanted that? Who signed up for the sun coming up in the east? I mean, that's basically what he's complaining about, because that is part and parcel of life in the NFL. 3 games in 12 days. He's done it every year. Teams do it every year. That's just the way it is. They just had their window moved around a little bit.
I empathize with the Steelers because twice this year, basically at the last moment, they've had their schedule really messed with. They never really had a bye week because of the Tennessee thing in week 3 and 4 back then. And obviously, this is totally an unpredictable situation. Now, look, the alternative, and again, maybe some players would say, give me the alternative. But, Mike, here's the alternative, okay? That the Pittsburgh Steelers basically would prepare for this game, prepare, and then all of a sudden on Tuesday, the game would be called off. And, oh, by the way, you got to play next Sunday. Or I think they would have played Washington on Sunday. So you either have that alternative, you play this week on Wednesday, or you postpone the game and you play it on January 10th, which would mean that, the Steelers essentially would never have had a bye, the entire year. They would have played all the way until week 17 on January 3rd. And then instead of being able to say, okay, finally, we get our break, then they got to play a game that could either mean something for home field in the AFC or for the Ravens either to be in or out of the playoffs. And so the game means something. And then and only then would they get their week off on the weekend of January 17th. Now, again, maybe the majority of Steelers would say, okay, we'll take the week 18 game. We'll take playing on January 10th. But in my opinion, if I looked at all the alternatives, I'll say, give me the hardship now and give me the weekend off, knowing that I've got most of the week off between January 4th and January 10th. I'd much rather have that.
I think this just falls into the bucket of people want to complain, and they'll complain about anything and everything, even if they aren't complaining about the things they should be complaining about. I mean, his ultimate complaint is what you're saying. They were forced to wait and wonder when are they going to play. Now, in the interim, Peter, from Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday, it's not like Mike Tomlin was beating the hell out of his players in practice. It was a light week. That's one of the things that guys like about short week football. They don't get overworked leading up to the game because the coach understands they're still recovering from the game that was played. So I doubt that at any point between the game at Jacksonville and then ultimately the game against the Baltimore Ravens on Wednesday night, the Steelers had a rough and tough padded practice. So it was an unscheduled, unexpected, seat-of-the-pants mini-bye. They just never could mentally come down because they were thinking, all right, we're playing Thursday. Right. And then it's like, okay, we're playing Sunday. Okay, then we're playing Tuesday. Then it's okay, we're playing Wednesday. If you can articulate the complaint that way, that you're in this constant state of limbo as to when you're going to play and to get yourself ready to go, it's not easy and you're not sure, and that's frustrating. Complain about that. Don't complain about playing 3 games in 12 days when you play 3 games in 12 days all the time. And I doubt that any of these guys would have accepted what Ebron suggested, a cancellation of the game, don't get paid for the game, and then you're 15-0, splitting the difference between the 72 Dolphins and the 2007 Patriots. My guess is these Steelers players want to go for 16-0. They're not going to be happy to say, well, we're 15-0 and we canceled a game because we didn't feel like getting screwed around by the NFL. So that'll show them. No. It's just venting. That's what it comes down to. Steelers players venting, and Mike Tomlin probably not happy about it because his attitude is we make no excuses and we just move forward.
Right. Yeah, and, Tomlin's got the right attitude. Mike, we've been talking about this a lot during the course of this season. You could see this coming from a mile away. You could see it coming from last May, that the NFL was going to be the freight train rolling down the tracks. They didn't postpone free agency at the start of the pandemic. They didn't postpone the draft a month and a half into the pandemic. They didn't postpone. They had to delay the start of training camp because of work rules with the union. But they basically didn't postpone the start of training camp either. They canceled 65 preseason games because of it all, which is a gigantic favor to the players, obviously. You don't have to play any preseason games. Now, not to the 85th player in training camp, but to the veteran players, to the basic NFLPA rank and file, they didn't have to put their bodies on the line in the preseason. And now you obviously knew that there are going to be some inconveniences that are going to be almost like split-second inconveniences that you can do absolutely nothing about. And I hate to say, hey, just sit back and deal with it, but just sit back and deal with it.
And I'm reluctant to make this point because I feel like anytime someone does, it easily comes off as a get off my lawn type of a retort. But at the same time, every player did indeed have an opportunity before training camp began to say, I'm not interested this year. At no financial penalty, other than obviously not being paid for the year. They would have received a stipend instead. But every player had a chance to stand at the edge of the cliff and say, I'm not interested in jumping. I'm not going to do it this year. I don't want to do it. And it's not just, I don't want to expose myself to potentially being infected by the virus. I think anyone who would have gotten good advice with the application of any degree of foresight would have been told things could get screwy through this process. There may be games that get moved around. There may be some unintended consequences of trying to get these games played. Once you decide that you're jumping off the cliff and trusting the parachute and going wherever the wind may take you, that's what you're doing. So that's another reason why I hear these complaints, and I want to go all the way back to July and say, guys, you may not have signed up specifically for your Thanksgiving game being delayed to Sunday and then to Tuesday and then to Wednesday, but you generally signed up for a season of we don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why when I hear things like this, I hear Ben Roethlisberger saying to Michelle Tafoya after the game some sarcastic thing about thanking Roger Goodell or whatever that line was when he talked after the game. It was clear he's not happy. I doubt the Steelers are happy either. But in the grand scheme of things, A, not only does it do no good to complain, but B, it really makes you sound a little bit disconnected with the real world. It just does, whether the players like it or not. I know they have a job to do, and I know it's tough in a week like this, but you're a little bit disconnected with the real world when you complain about the schedule that you have to play in a football season.
And if you are mad, internalize it, refocus it, and use it to fuel your path to the number 1 seed, an undefeated season, whatever. You just have to keep winning because the Kansas City Chiefs are still breathing down your necks at 10-1.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.